Okay, so now we are going to talk about comparing decimals. So if we look here, it says compare the decimals using greater than, less than, or equal to, okay? So I like to think about this. It's kind of silly, but sometimes it helps us remember like the alligator mouth, okay? So inside the circle, you're going to give me the inequality sign. Number one, it says 12 and 2/10, and I'm going to compare it to 1 and 22/100, okay? These both have the same numbers. They have 1, 2, 2. 1, 2, 2. The only difference is where my decimal is. Remember, the piece of the decimal that is in front is my whole number, and what's after is that part of a whole. So if I compare the first one and the second one, which is bigger, the whole number 12 or the whole number 1? The whole number 12 is larger. Okay, so 12 is bigger than 1. Okay, so these little decimals, it doesn't matter how long it is, it matters about your whole number. So that means that 12 is greater than 1 and 2 are 22/100. So it's almost like the alligator is eating the bigger number. If we look at number 2, same thing. We do not look at the digits. If we look at the digits, this one has one number behind the decimal. This one has two numbers behind the decimal. If it has two numbers behind the decimal, does that necessarily mean that it's larger? Absolutely not. Okay, we have to look at our place values. If we were to line these up, okay, which is bigger, the 6 or the 3? And that would be the 6. So 6/10 is greater than 34/100. Okay. Next, it says order the following decimals from least to greatest. Okay, I first want to take a look at this with the bar over it. We should remember that that means that it repeats over and over and over and over again. So this is going to be 0.6 over and over and over and over and over. But if you know that in your brain, you don't have to write that over and over and over. So essentially, you're just going to put them in order from least to greatest. Remember, line them up if you need to. It does not matter how long or how many digits there are. You look at your tenths place, okay? That would be what I'm about to highlight, okay? You see what I'm highlighting? The tenths place. I'm gonna see if I can make this bigger, okay? That's my tenths place. Now, what's bigger in my tenths place? The 2, 6, 5, or 8? The 8's bigger, so it's going to go last because I want from least to greatest. The smallest is 2. So if I were to put these in order, that would come first. Next, we have our 5. So that's a half. Then we have our decimal 6 with a bar over it. And then we have our 85/100, okay? So when we order them, please remember to look at your place value. It does not matter how long it is. It doesn't matter how many digits it has. It matters about the place value and which one's larger. Okay. Number 4 is the same thing as number 3. Number 5, please remember, if it has the bar over it means it repeats. So if I have this compared to this over and over and over, which one is larger? Okay, if we look at our tenths place, they're both 3's, so then we have to go on. Okay, everything behind here is a 0. We can put zeros there because it doesn't change the value. Okay, 0 does not change the value if it's after a decimal. Okay, so that's going to be a 0. So which is larger, 0 or 3? That would be 3. So actually, the one with the bar over it is greater, and I want you to type and explain to me why. Okay. Number 6, it says Callista has a bag of M&Ms. she has eaten 50%. 50% is the same thing as what? What does that mean if she ate 50% of it? That means she ate a half of it. So if I want to find out what half of something is, I can divide by what number? That's right, I can divide by 2. So if I want to know what half of, or 50% or half of 38 is, I'm going to divide by 2. 2 goes into 3 one time. If I subtract, I'll get 1. I need to bring down my 8. 2 times what is 18? That would be 9. So that is 19, okay? Makes sense? So she has eaten 19 out of the 38 M&Ms because she's eaten half of them. Okay, we'll go down here. We're still comparing the numbers. Okay. I find it very difficult, not super difficult, but I find it more difficult to compare fractions. So I think your best bet is to make sure your fractions are first simplified. And if they're simplified, it might be easiest just to turn them into decimals, okay? So let's start with number 7. It says 1/3, okay? How many times does 3 go into 1? It does not, so I add a decimal and a 0. How many times does it go into 10? It would go into it 3 times, which will be 9, and it's going to be repeating. So that is 0.3 with a bar over it. Then I want to take the other one and do the same thing. How many times does 5 go into 3? 0 times. How many times does it go into 30? 6 times. So once again, I compare which one is larger. That would be 6/10. So that would mean that 1/3 is less than 3/5, okay? I find it the easiest method to turn them into decimals unless the situation lends itself to something else, okay? So I'll explain that in a second. For example, let's look at number 9. If I have 24 out of 32, is that fraction simplified? No, it's not. Are they both even? Yes. Is 24 even? Is 32 even? Absolutely. So that means I can divide by 2. Some of you may see that there's a bigger factor that will go into both, but those of you who can't, let's just divide by 2. 24 divided by 2 is 12. And 32 divided by 2 is 16. Is this simplified? Not yet. I can divide both of them by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. We're still not simplified yet. I divide by 2, that would give me 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Is that simplified? Yes, it is. So now, you just told me that 24 over 32 is the same thing as 3/4. Isn't that what I have on the left side and the right side? It is. So this is actually going to be equal to one another. Does that make sense? Yeah? All right, fantastic. So let's look at number 10. Please note that 2 over 6 is not the same thing as 26%. You cannot just remove that fraction bar. You cannot just remove a decimal. Okay? We are going to say our numerator goes inside the house. Well, actually, first, let's simplify. 2, 6, are they even? Yes. Can I divide by 2? Absolutely. That should give me 1/3. We should all know by now that 1/3 is 0.3 with a bar over it. Okay? Now let's look at our 26%. I move it 2 places to the left. Now that's 0.26. Now which is larger? 0.3 or 0.2? Which would be 0.3. Okay? If you're confused about this, raise your hand so that I can come to you and help you with it. That'd be a lot easier. You can try watching the video again if you have to wait on me to come, okay? So next, let's look at number 11. Okay? This one's already a decimal, so let's convert the one on the right to a decimal. 4%. I always move it 2 places. 1, 2. Put your decimal there. If there's a hump right here, no number, I have to add a 0. So is 4/10 the same as 4/100? I don't think so. So let's look. In my tenths place, I have a 4 and I have a 0. What's bigger, 4 or 0? That would be 4. So which is larger? The 4/10. It's larger than 4/100. Okay. Let's see if there's any that we can look at real fast. Okay. For number 12, you can either convert them all to fractions with the same denominator or convert them into decimals. I prefer decimals. I just think decimals are easier to see and compare. Please notice this is greatest to least. So fraction bar means to divide. So I find it easiest to convert them all to decimals. Some of these should just be automatic, okay? So we should know that 4/5 is equivalent to 6/100, okay? And then we should be able to simplify 6/8 into 3/4, and we should know that 3/4 is decimal 75. We should know that 1/3 is 0.3 with a bar over it. And we should know that 1/2 is 0.5, okay? Those are common fractions that we should be able to convert to decimals quickly. Okay, if you take a look at number 13, you have a fraction, a decimal, and a percent. You cannot compare these unless they are the same. I want you to convert them all to decimals. You already have one decimal right here. It's easy to convert a percent to a decimal. I just move it 2 places to the left. And now your only thing is to convert your 1/5 to a decimal. Fraction bar means to divide, for those of you who do not know what 1/5 is as a decimal, okay? Quick note here, number 14, 4 out of 20 is a ratio, so fraction 4 out of 20, okay? So do not let that confuse you. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to ask me.